So around this time last year, I finally decided to dive into the world of Xenoblade Chronicles for the first time with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. And I made a whole video about that. I'll probably link it in the description down below if you haven't watched it yet. But my overall verdict was I really enjoyed the game. My biggest issue was the combat got kind of repetitive towards the end, and the overabundance on things like side quests and Infinity just kind of, wasn't my thing. But overall, it was one of the best, if not the best video game stories I've ever witnessed in my entire life. It stayed and stuck in my brain for so long, but ever since I played that game, the only other series I've never dove into was Fire Emblem. So yes, this story is very similar to my Xenoblade Chronicles 1, where simply I've never been a big fan of JRPGs. I've tried some for a little bit and just was never a big fan of them. And I ultimately just said I was never going to enjoy or care about Fire Emblem or Xenoblade. And I was a very big hater of Fire Emblem. Now, I said this about Xenoblade, but I still would give Xenoblade a try. I knew the stories were good. I used to watch some of the cutscenes online, and I was always interested in Xenoblade, but the combat, every time I would watch the combat, it would just immediately turn me off. I didn't care. But Fire Emblem, for some reason, I just had this disdain against Fire Emblem, and I think the biggest reason simply is because it seemed like it was taking over and just always having a new game come out. They were getting tons of characters in Smash Brothers, and it was just making me bitter to the point where I just did not care about this game. And it just seems like in every direct there was always a Fire Emblem announcement. I mean, if we're being honest, we're technically getting, yes, this is my daily dose of me mentioning 3D Mario, but we're technically getting 3 Fire Emblem games before we get the next 3D Mario game, which is freaking nuts, with 3 houses Engage and in Fortune's Weave. But it might be the same way with Xenoblade 2 if another Xenoblade game comes out. But yes, I was a pretty big hater of this game, the same way I was with Xenoblade, but a lot worse with Fire Emblem. And that's why the last couple years I set out to at least give these games a try, so I can say I tried them. But how did I feel about Fire Emblem 3 Houses? Well, I'm just going to show you some gameplay. This is the dead center of the game, the war mission before it goes into the second half. So I'll just show you my gameplay as I'm talking and yapping about the game. This is going to be pretty much uncut, unedited, and just my raw thoughts of the game. So, what did I think of this game? Straight off the bat, I was so shocked. I could not believe how quickly I got locked into this game, or should I say engaged into this game. No, seriously, I actually had plans to play Engage first. I actually bought that game, and everybody's like, no, play 3 Houses first. You want to start off with that one. So I guess I have Engage up there to play next, but I really did love this game. Xenoblade took me a little bit to get into. I think the slow story and the slow combat and stuff, it took me a little bit to get in there, but once the story started moving, I really got locked in. I was pretty much locked into this game right away. And like I said, normally this type of combat is not my thing, but I love this game's combat. And I guess that's where we'll start first, is the combat. This is kind of a flip situation of Xenoblade for me, where the story wasn't anything super interesting to me. It's not bad at all, but the combat is what really elevated this game. It's like this really cool game of chess, and I hate chess, but it's like a really fun battling version of it. The closest game that I probably played to this would be something like Mario Rabbids, kind of that XCOM, move across a grid, battle type of thing. And I really loved Mario Rabbids, and this reminds me a lot of that game. It's a little bit more tactical. You got to think a little bit more on your feet and, position your people the right way, give your crew the right gear and stuff. It's a lot more in-depth. It feels like big boy version of Mario Rabbids, I guess I can explain it as. But I was a huge fan of this battling system. There's a really cool weapon triangle thing going on where, like, if someone has a bow, you want to get close encounter with them with a sword, but if somebody has a sword, you may want to shoot them in far distance with a bow. But I think the actual triangle is technically like sword beats axe, axe beats lance, lance beats sword. It's something you just got to kind of remember. But, like, yeah, I thought that was really cool, and it makes you think before you're just moving characters to go fight other characters, because that's what I did at first. I just started sending troops out to go fight, and I realized, oh shoot, these these enemies actually hit you back when you hit them. So you have to make strategic attack plans and stuff, and make sure, something else that I had to keep reminding myself, make sure you're holding the right weapon even if you're not attacking, because if somebody attacks you, you're going to want to use that weapon that you're holding. And I'm like, there's so much level of thinking and thought to it, but it's not to the point where it's just annoying, where you're not feeling like, you know, you're understanding or anything like that. I didn't feel confused really about anything with the battling system. Like, it really clicked super fast, and it was really cool how each character really plays their role and how many roles there are. I mean, there's like literally like 20 different roles. You can have like a warrior that's good with his fist. You know, for instance, I picked the Golden Deer house, and I think Raphael was like really good with his fist and like really good at close encounters. But then obviously Claude, my house leader, was like extremely good with his bow. I gave him, I think, a wyvern is what it was to fly around on with his bow, which was like the perfect combination. Or I think he gets a wyvern during the second part of the story. Either way, flying around the map, also with a bow, like he was undefeated. He was better than freaking Byleth, the main character, for me. But yeah, everybody has their role. You have magic users that can like shoot magic from across the map. But what also makes the battle system so cool is there's like little things around the map to like actually land on and interact with. There's like little hill pods. You can like stand in a bush, which means it might be harder for the enemy to hit you. There's walls that you can break down to send troops through. There's doors that you can open by getting keys from other, you know, scouts and stuff on the field. That is so cool. One of the coolest things was some battlefields has like a magic podium or a giant crossbow thing. And if you go there with your magic user or your crossbow user, or your regular bow user rather, you can shoot these like arrows across the map, or you can shoot magic across the map and hit somebody else, and the enemies would do it too. They can stun you and stuff. I love that type of stuff. I was like, dude, that's cool. There's actual reason to move into certain spaces and stuff. I also love just sitting so many troops in different directions. This isn't like Xenoblade where you're only like managing 3 or 4 people, or, you know, Xenoblade 1, just your main character, which is normally Shulk. You're actually managing like a giant group of like 10 to 12 warriors, and it's so cool to like split them up and have them go on different tasks. You can have one group wrap around the backside and kind of flank your enemy while the other group is like fighting them head on. It's awesome, dude. Like, seriously, it's such a unique way to fight in a battle system. It might actually be one of my favorite RPG battle systems. It's up there. I'm very into just classic RPG battling. Like, Paper Mario is my style. I think my favorite, though, is probably Mario and Luigi. I like the ability to be able to dodge by jumping or swing your hammer by dodging and stuff. That stuff is always pretty cool to me. I like to be interactive as best as I can. And still, I really do wish there was, like, I think that would make it even better if there was, like, some type of button time press once it goes into the attack mode. Like, if you press the button at the right time, you can maximize even more damage. I think that would be awesome. I don't know if other people feel that same way, but that's just me. That's me being a Mario RPG fan. You know, Mario RPG, Paper Mario, Mario and Luigi, all of them. I love them all. But yeah, dude, I love this battle system. And I did not play on the hardcore mode or whatever it is, where like if a troop dies, they die for good. I can see how that can be extremely, like, you know, put your mind into the game. I don't have time. I have such a huge backlog. I know if I do that, I'm going to be so invested into the game, trying to make sure no one dies and stuff like that. And, you know, it took me about 32, 33 hours to beat the game, at least for this path, for the Golden Deer path. But I'm like, dude, if I did that, I probably would be putting in 45, 50 hours into this game. I'm like, I have other things I need to play and get through and stuff. So I was like, maybe not this time, maybe another time or something like that. But that's cool that that's an option. There's a lot of options as well to customize things. One negative maybe that I have is there's so many like little pauses in between the battling. Like I will have ideas like, okay, oh, I know what I'm going to do, like the next 3 characters. But, you know, your character will go up, kill somebody, go through this animation, also show you your level up thing. I don't know if there's a way to turn that off, but I was like, dude, that is so annoying to see every single time a character levels up, every time they fight somebody. You have 12 characters on the battlefield, and almost every other fight, someone's leveling up. And it's just like, ugh. But yeah, I like how your troops can, you know, grow. They can take these certification tests, and they pretty much, you know, they can get like different classes and change different parts of them and stuff. They can become a mage, or like I said, a wyvern rider, or just a Pegasus rider. There's so many cool things. And there's even one, like, you can make your magic user like this really cool, like, ninja Gaiden type of thing. Like, they do all these cool, like, little ninja backflip moves and stuff, and like shoot fireballs or stuff. Like, it's really cool. But yes, something you guys might ask is like, who are my favorite characters? Like I said, Raphael, I loved his close combat. He was definitely there. Hanneman, I think he's one of the professors. He's a magic wielder. He was pretty good. For sure, though, my big ones were Claude and Hilda. Hilda was just like my axe girl, just getting it done. She ended up being the one that I married, and I'll talk about that towards the end there, because there's some questions I had with that one. I try to recruit other members from different houses, but it felt like it was impossible. Every single time I try to talk to them, they was like, you need to raise Dex, or you need to raise this. And I'm like, how am I supposed to do that? Like, I feel like I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing. I was, having lunches with them, having tea times, giving them gifts, and, inviting them to fight for me some missions temporarily. And I don't know. I never got even close to getting anybody on my team. The only ones I was able to recruit are the obvious, like, the professors, the ones that all want to jump on your team. So I ended up using, like, for instance, Catherine a lot as well, because she had that really cool sword. But yeah, like I said, really cool thing. Like, I love the little in-between missions that can give you special swords as well. Different, what are they? Not swords of the creators. There's only one sword of the creator, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Like the hero relics, which I thought was pretty cool. For instance, I gave Hilda the axe one from one of the missions. But yeah, like I said, I mean, I could just keep going on and on and on about this combat. It's so good. Now, not all of it made too much sense to me. Like, for instance, I'm still trying to figure out the battalions a little bit. I get, like, it's like a group of soldiers that have different effects. Like, some can give you, more room to run around the map, or more health, or, more damage for the enemy or something like that. But for instance, one thing I was pretty confused with and didn't use too much in the second half of the game were the special attacks. I felt like they were always weaker than just using my basic attack with like an axe instead of using a special attack. I don't know if I was doing something wrong with those, but I don't know. They never felt like they were that strong or really an option too much for me. Maybe I'm, once again, like I said, this is my first time. I could have been doing something wrong completely. So I don't really know for sure. Something else I love about the battling, I think it's the giant beast, the monster beast. They're actually fun to fight. They're like little mini boss battles, and there's different types. Like, you'll come across these really creepy, like one of them had these weird creepy statues with arms, and then there was like some flying beast. There's some side missions where there's like dragons or stuff that you gotta fight. Towards the end of the game, there's like these giant robots that you fight, and I love how you take them out, how you have to use the gambit in order to confuse them, and you have to break all the yellow boxes around them that worked as like shields in order to make them dizzy. That was really cool. I like that. I was a big fan of that. Something else I will say, it did feel like some characters on my team were just way too good at dodging, where they like never got hit. Like, there were some characters I feel like genuinely dodged everything, and I was like, oh, well, Claude's about to get attacked by 5 soldiers and no one's going to hit him, and it would happen like that every time. I'm like, I don't know why that's the case. Like, there's just some characters I feel like just never really took. I don't think Claude ever dropped below 50% of his health, and I put him in some crazy situations because I was so confident in him, where other characters will just drop immediately. So I don't know if that has something to do with like a skill of his where he's like really good at dodging or something, especially when he got his wyvern. I mean, I really never got hit by any attacks, so he instantly became like an extremely OP character for me. I was just like, I feel like I should be getting hit here. Like, there was so many times where I just had like, oh, I'm doomed. Like, I messed up, and all these soldiers surround me. They all come to hit me, and like only one of them landed an attack for like 10 damage or something. I was like, I felt like I should have gotten beat up here. But yeah, something else, like, I'm glad it's there, but it also kind of feels like cheating. I know you don't have to use it, but when it's there, it burns a hole in your pocket, and you got to use it sometimes. It's the rewind time function. It's cool to like not have to restart a whole battle if you made one silly bonehead mistake, but I wish there was almost like a counter to it. Like, you get 3 of them, because I felt like it was so easy to use at times. I had to literally like keep my hand off of it and tell myself no, even if I made a stupid mistake, just to see like where I could go with it. The only time I really used it though was when I made like a genuinely like dumb mistake where I accidentally moved somebody when I wasn't supposed to. But if I moved somebody and they didn't do damage, if I moved somebody and they got killed instantly, I tried not to use it unless it was like a dire situation. So I guess it's good that it's there, especially for maybe newer players like myself. But I personally wasn't a huge fan of it. And once again, that probably means like, if you're not a big fan of it, play the other way, where it's just like if your person dies, they die for good, which I'm really curious to see how that works. Like, does the player, like, do they completely die? Are they not even at like Garreg Mach, the castle area? Are they completely taken out of the game if that's the case? Like, how does that affect the story and the cutscenes? Like, are they just taken out? Like, I would love if somebody can answer that for me. Like, that's something I was really wondering. Like, are they completely removed from cutscenes and parts in like interesting parts of the story? I don't know, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. Like, also, like, is it like if the house leader dies, everybody fails? Because I feel like they're like very important, like Eldegard, or what's her name? Eligard, or I forgot her, Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude. Like, what happens if they die? I don't know. I know if Byleth dies, I read that it completely restarts the mission, but no, yeah, I love the battling. I mean, like I said, I can keep going on and on and on. This was addicting. Like, I genuinely got addicted to it. But I will say, towards the later half of the game, I just wanted to progress the story, and they kept making me, asking me, like, do you want to battle? And I wasn't too big on the side missions once they stopped giving me, like, special weapons, when it just became like, oh, here's some gold or ore. But let's get into the rest of the game, because I spent the first 15 minutes here just talking straight about battling. The story, to me, was probably one of the weaker parts. It was okay. I actually, the problem is that there's different stories and like different paths, depending on which path that you took. I think there's 3 other paths outside the one that I took. So I am interested in going back and seeing the other paths. But my path, I heard, had like the longest and, probably the more cohesive story to wrap everything up, even with like the main villains and stuff and the true villains underground, what are they called? It's funny, like the ones that slither in the dark or something. That was pretty funny. But I don't know. The story, it was fine. I think I was coming off of Xenoblade and expecting some type of crazy, like, nothing is probably ever going to be as crazy as the twists and turns that they threw at you in Xenoblade Chronicles 1. So I was like, the whole time I was like, I don't trust Rhea. I was like, I don't trust her. I don't trust Rhea. There's something about her. I don't trust her. She's probably like evil or something. Like, even, Claude's dad says, don't trust Rhea. And, I keep your eyes open for Rhea. So, like, I was expecting her to have, like, some type of twist or turn or something. But I guess maybe it's depending on the story, because I think she actually ends up being a boss for one of the stories or something. So I was like, maybe it's just based on my story, she's not a villain. But maybe in another story she is. I don't know. I guess it depends on which side of the war that you're on and stuff. I get everything that's going on. I thought the story was really cool and even really dark in some areas. Like the fact that the divine weapons are all made of like bones in the heart of like the children of the progenitor god or whatever, like Sothis. I thought that was crazy. I was like, dude, that's pretty insane. Like they look like it. Like it makes sense, because once it said it, I was like, okay, that's why they look like they're bones, because it literally is constructed of bones. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't bad at all. Like, I thought it was a good story, and I even watched a couple of videos to kind of recap some things maybe I missed and stuff, and, it was good. I was like, okay, that's a pretty interesting story and stuff, but I guess it's pretty tame. Like I said, it's just so hard coming off of Xenoblade Chronicles 1, because my expectations are like, now when I watch video game stories, they're through the roof. Obviously, this is a better story than most, if not all, Zelda games and stuff, so there's stuff here, but it wasn't enough to like really keep me locked in. I definitely was paying attention. Once again, let me say that it's not a bad story at all. It wasn't as impactful as something like Xenoblade 1's. Also, I was really confused by Sothis' role. I feel like she just kind of disappeared the second half of the entire game, which she literally does. I mean, there's a reason why, she kind of goes into you and like you become one with her. But it's just like, it was weird. Like, she's just gone. Like, this character that would talk to you the first whole half of the game nonstop and be there by your side and make some jokes and say stuff to you and just disappear. Because she felt like Viridi a lot from Kid Icarus Uprising. And I really was, like, liking her and stuff, and then she just disappears. And then I think at the very end, you could choose her as a love interest, which also was strange to me, because she was like really young looking. I don't know if she got older as well. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what's going on with her. It was weird that she just like disappeared for the whole second half and didn't come back in any way, shape, or form. I get maybe that's part of the story for her, like conjoining with you, and that's why. But still, I don't know. I would have liked to seen like yeah. I don't know. I know it's explained like Rhea put the heart of Sothis into Byleth after putting it into his mom. Like I get the whole thing, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I wanted more with Sothis and maybe more story with her, but she just kind of vanished. But yeah, let's talk about the rest of the game and what you do when you're not fighting and watching cutscenes. Real quick before I jump into that, because I completely forgot, the time skip was so cool. I thought that was awesome, how all your classmates come back after the 5 years of you being like concussed, and you wake up and like they all come back to help you in battle, and they all look older and stuff, and they sound a little older. That was a really cool thing. Like, all your students are now grown now. It just like, yeah, I was a pretty big fan of that one. That was, you know, I was hearing about it before even playing it, that there's a time skip and stuff. And of course, like, because I heard there's like a marriage aspect, I'm like, these are children, which also made me laugh, because I'm like, I'm low-key charming up my classmates to marry one of them later on in like 5 years, which is just kind of crazy still thinking about that. But running around the Garreg Mach at first was actually pretty cool, how each month, you know, you can choose to run around and go do tasks. You can like talk and, you know, become friends with the students, and you can do like little events. There's like a dance and stuff that happens 1 month, and like some training thing that happens 1 month. There's even 1 month where like the houses that compete in a mock battle, and then they actually have a real battle in that same battlefield 5 years later, which is just, that is awesome poetry in motion. I love that. But yeah, I don't know. I think especially the second half, when I was like, because I thought it was like, okay, we're done with the Garreg Mach. Maybe we're going to have a new, like, you know, hub central area to, you know, be at, like a little camp or something. But no, it was just like, oh, we're back in the castle, and it looks pretty much the same with just some rubble in some areas. I was kind of tired of coming back here every single time, and you started getting less and less side quests the second half, like 1 or 2 maybe each time, that were simple. I mean, these side quests are so simple. It's talk to this person, look at the glowing part on your map, and go to that person. This kind of got boring to me. I wasn't too big of just running around and just, you know, talking to people just to level up some stats, and then just doing some shopping, which you can just do in the menus before even jumping into the explore section. I don't know. Towards the second half, I found myself just either battling or resting, and immediately just trying to skip to the next main mission, because I didn't really care too much about it the second half. Yes, it's good to, you know, like I said, at first I really did like the tea time stuff, and like, you know, having meals with different classmates and talking to them. But then it just kind of got repetitive when it just kept going on. Like, we're in this heat of the moment story where like these giant battles are taking place, but you got to wait to the end of the month to even jump into the fun sections, where you're spending so much time just doing what I feel like kind of pointless things. I don't know. I saw that there's one Fire Emblem game. I want to say it's Shadows of Valentia, but I could be wrong. I don't even know if that was the name of it for sure. But where you can run around and you can actually use your sword to break crates and, you know, do stuff with it in the overworld. I kind of wish you could do that. Like, I kind of wish there was some like little overworld stuff that you can do and interact with. Maybe some more mini games, like the fishing game was, you know, simple, but it was something like that, you know, scattered around, where maybe there's like a little training area where you can like actually swing your sword in like real-time combat in a training area just to like upgrade your stats. Something like that could have been cool. Just being able to walk around, break boxes, kind of Zelda style, break some pots, just collect some stuff that way. Something to give you something else to do other than walk around and just accept quests or just talk to people. This wasn't bad by any means, but I think after a while it got tiresome, and I was ready to just move on with the story and continue forward. Now, you guys probably want to know about the whole marriage thing. I think I already mentioned it earlier. I ended up marrying Hilda. Now, I didn't really have a say-so. Instantly, I thought Hilda was going to be, you know, my number one trooper from the beginning. She was just like taking everybody out with the axe and everything. Like, she instantly became one of the more powerful people on my team. So like, I think naturally I just started building that chemistry with her, but I didn't even know there was a marriage thing to this, until like the very end of the game. And then it gave me like a sheet of like people that I can choose to marry. And it was like, at the very end of the game, it came down between like literally just Soltis and Hilda. And I was like, aren't I supposed to have more choices here? And I found out I was probably supposed to be, you know, taking more of them out for tea time, spending more time with them, raising those levels, until I found out like, oh, I had to get those chemistry levels to like, I think level A in order to, you know, potentially marry them. So, you know, it wasn't a big deal because I probably was going to pick Hilda anyways. It was definitely going to be between Hilda or Lysithea. I feel like were the two that I was definitely going to go toward. And Hilda was fine. She's definitely a loose cannon, off the walls, an interesting individual, especially when you propose to her. She's like, you do know that I'm still going to care about myself, but I will care about you. But also know that you're going to get your hands full with me. Like, it's kind of like, what did I pick here? What am I setting myself up for? But it was also strange. Now, like I said, I didn't really know how it was going to work in this game, or even if it was in this game. I heard from my friend, like, it was in past games, and I think he said in one of the past 3DS games, you even have kids with the person that you pick and stuff. So, like, I don't know. I thought this was going to be a bigger thing. Like, I was so shocked. Like, at first, I thought I missed something. I'm, like, getting towards the end of the game, and I'm like, is there not a wedding? Okay, I was like, oh, I guess there's not, like, a wedding thing in this game, because I remember getting the ring from Geralt, so I'm thinking, okay, it's got to be in this game, and I was like, thinking, when is this going to happen? Clearly, okay, it's clearly going to happen after the 5-year gap, because they're mostly of age. most of them were already of age, but some of them weren't. Like Lysithea, she was like the youngest. But I was like, when does this actually happen, and what's the point of this? Am I gonna like have story elements, and is it gonna tie into the story with me and this person? Like, are we gonna have like a closer bond on the battlefield or something? But this literally doesn't happen until after you beat the game. Like, literally after the final boss, this happens, which is so weird, because I'm like, what's the point? You get some dialogue, which is cool, and then you get a picture of them, which this is what you get with Hilda, which made me laugh. My wife was like, what is going on here? And I had to explain to her what the heck this was about. Like, it would have been better if the picture was at least with her and Byleth, like, together or something. Like, what is this picture? Yeah, like, the post game tells you about like what the characters went on to do, and it says like Byleth and Hilda went on to have a kid together or something, and like to rule their kingdom or something, and like Hilda went on to open a clothes store or something like that. I'm like, okay, why couldn't they show some of that? Or like, why couldn't they have this happen in the middle of the game, so that way it could have like contributions to the rest of the game? I was also kind of like, it would have also been cool if you could also marry other people, and like had other relationships, and maybe those relationships like showed things on the battlefield. Like, maybe you get special moves since husband and wife are fighting alongside each other. I think it also would add a lot of value, especially if you're playing the mode where like people can die, so that way if like me and Hilda are out there and Hilda's about to die, like, it feels real. Like, if she dies, it's over. Like, you lose her, you lose your wife on the battlefield. I feel like that would have had like a lot of weight to it, and it just felt meaningless that like this, you spend the whole game trying to romanticize these, I don't want to say, again, it's weird that you're a professor trying to build these bonds with these children. That's the marry one eventually. But like, yeah, you're like trying to find your waifu, and like the whole time it's just like for a post-game picture that you get with some small dialogue. I don't know. It was strange. It would have been so much, more interesting if you could pick that person halfway through the game, and that way dialogue changes. Like, she's, around you, and she talks to you like you're, her husband throughout the game and stuff. Or even like a dating thing, like maybe you start off dating and then you marry, something like that could have been cool. Like, I feel like they need to expand on that idea of like the love thing, because it just felt shoehorned in at the very end of the game. I was like, oh, I guess there is a marriage. I mean, the game's over now. What's the point? But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's like anything else. I guess I could talk about like the final boss and ending. If you don't want to hear it, you might want to click off. But yeah, that's how I'll wrap up then. But yeah, the final boss, it was cool. I think I was expecting like a big monster or something. I don't know. I was expecting something like so for the Golden Deer, like, your final boss fight is against Nemesis, who comes back to life, which is like the first person you see die at the very beginning of the game. Yeah, he comes back to life. I'm also confused on how he still has a Sword of the Creator himself. How is that possible? Is it like a dark version or something? Like, how did all his soldiers have like all these hero weapons? How did they have those? I don't know. Maybe I missed something there. But anyways, you fight him in a very kind of an anticlimactic battle. It wasn't that hard. In fact, I felt like the battle in that futuristic city where you find the ones that slither in darkness. By the way, that was a crazy level. Like, there's just this random futuristic city underground, and it has dubstep music, and it's actually really catchy and interesting, and I actually really liked it. It's a different approach, but that was probably one of the harder battles, believe it or not. That one, and even like the mock battle with the 3 houses. I came down between like Claude and Dimitri 1v1, and I got a lucky dodge and won the game. I didn't really have anything else like that in the rest of the game, especially the final boss. I felt like, the hardest part of the final boss was just, getting everybody to land an attack on Nemesis. But yeah, it was just like, oh, the final boss is just this guy. The story was cool with it, and the cutscene at the end was really cool. But the actual battle felt like a little underwhelming compared to what I thought it was going to be. Like, I'm like, we're fighting all these beasts and all these monsters, and like I expected it to be like one last final big one, or I thought Nemesis was going to turn into one giant beast at the very end. But nope. But I did spoil myself for some of them. I looked it up. I was like, okay, there has to be better boss battles for the different routes. And it definitely looked like some of them were. I have no freaking clue what was going on. So I clicked out immediately. I said, okay, I just wanted to check my suspicion and see if I was correct. Yeah, I don't know. Some of the things that also felt kind of weird. I'll say they give you choices to answer questions in certain ways, but I feel like the choices are always like the same choice both times, but just one's slightly different. I don't know. I wish I had more say-so. Also, I wish Byleth freaking talked more. It's weird. I've never seen a character that's pretty much completely mute, but also has a couple of voice lines. Like, Link just yells, but Byleth actually says a couple of things. But he speaks like a robot. He acts like a robot. I don't know how I feel about him. He's just kind of like, I have improved myself. I strive for excellence. Practice makes perfect. Like, why does he talk like that? Like, he has, like, no fluidness to him. Like, I don't know. He just has no character, really. He's just this quiet, stern guy. I don't know. Yeah, I thought that was weird. I don't know why Nintendo just refuses just to have a character that's just a character that talks. Like, let him talk. Why can't the protagonist ever just speak? Let them talk, man. Give them some character. Every time, it's just like, everybody's pouring their heart out to you, and you answer with like one short sentence, and you nod your head. There's just no character with him. I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of Byleth himself. I don't know. He just felt like a cardboard character. Everybody else around him was interesting. Like, I loved Claude. 100%. Claude was my dude. I felt like he was like the main character for me. And he's the one that stood out amongst everybody else, where like the other 2 house leaders were all serious, and he was just kind of laid back, easygoing, but also could talk trash and made fun of people. He was awesome. He's probably one of my favorite characters in the entire game. I like Claude a lot. But yeah, I don't know. Some of the decisions, I wish more decisions led to more actual, consequences if you pick the wrong thing to say or do, and more branching paths if you say or do the wrong thing or something like that, or a thing that could, change the tide of battle or the tide of what happens in that month of events. I don't know. But yeah, but with that, I think that's about it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I guess I can talk about the future and kind of what I plan to do. If you didn't see my Xenoblade video, I talked about how I do plan on playing Xenoblade 2, but I wanted to play Fire Emblem, the first Fire Emblem game for me first, which is 3 houses. So the next thing I'll probably be doing to continue this is moving on with Xenoblade 2. That's just kind of the thing I think I want to do, continue that story, because I know the trilogy of games is one big story that, works together. So I want to see how that continues to pan out and stuff like that. I'll probably also make a video with both of these games and talk about them just as a general summary together, and kind of my experience jumping into both of these games that I previously kind of, not hated. I don't want to say I hated these games, but I very much slept on them and just did not care about them. But overall, I will say I really liked Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I ended up giving Xenoblade Definitive Edition a 8.5 out of 10. I think I'm very close to the same score. I think it's almost exact, because like I said, it's kind of like both the problems that I had for both games are flopped, where like Xenoblade, I absolutely got bored of the combat after a long time. It wasn't terrible, but I definitely got bored. It was the same thing. It was like tripping enemies down, hitting them, stunning them, where this one is actually like a lot of strategy, a lot of uniqueness goes into it. It was polar opposites with battle systems. I love this game's battle system, but the story wasn't bad though, because I can't say it's polar opposite, because I don't think Fire Emblem's story was bad. I just think it wasn't anywhere near as engaging, where Xenoblade had one of the best stories I've ever witnessed ever. So Yeah, and both of them suffer from minor complaints like Xenoblade, just the, you know, grueling side quests, how many of them there are, and just, like I said, the slow battle system, where this game, I think it's definitely, you know, just keep returning to Garreg Mach and, you know, repeating the same stuff every month without, you know, there being any big changes, especially that second half. But yeah, a couple tweaks here and there. Like I said, I probably still have to go about an 8.5 with this game. I think it's pretty much the same that I gave with Xenoblade, just in different reasons and for different ways. But I will say I walked away really looking forward to, like, you know, the next game that I'll play. Like I said, I thought I was going to be engaged, but then they announced Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, which I'll probably end up playing that next, believe it or not, which is probably going to release, I would guess, towards the end of this year. So maybe I'll play Xenoblade 2 and Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave this year. We'll see. That'll be a lot of JRPGs in 1 year. But also, this one wasn't too long. It wasn't an investment of time the way Xenoblade was. It was only, like I said, around 30, 32 hours, where Xenoblade took me like 70, 80 hours. Like, it is an investment. Like, you're locked into that game. I know the reason for this, though, it being shorter is because there's so many paths and stuff, which is interesting because, like, I want to play the other Fire Emblem games, but I also want to see these other paths. It's just like, what do I do? Maybe I'll come back to the paths later. I want to try out the other Fire Emblem games first. I think that's a priority of mine. In fact, I'm a huge Warriors fan, especially the Nintendo collab ones. Like, I loved Hyrule Warriors to death. That's really the only one that I played. Well, really all three of the Hyrule Warriors games. I've also, you know, played them like almost 100% at every single one. I think the only one I haven't is Definitive Edition because there's so much freaking content in that game. I'm still trying to. I'm yapping. But my point is, I do plan on maybe even checking out the Fire Emblem games because I didn't even know there were 2 Warrior games for Fire Emblem. I knew there was one of them that had all the past characters. I did not know there was a Fire Emblem 3 Houses Warriors game with 3 Hopes. I forgot all about that. I remember making jokes about the 3 Hopes and stuff. Like, you know, I have 3 Hopes. Like, where's Mario? Where's Smash? Whatever it was back then. I remember making jokes about it and seeing jokes about it. But I am, like, super interested in that now. Like, I genuinely might start playing that kind of soon. I'm a big, you know, like I said, Warriors fan, and it looks like it's just, you know, taking the characters and a lot of the stuff from this game and the story and adding some new elements. Like, I think there's a new protagonist and stuff that you play as. So, like, I'm actually really looking forward to maybe even trying a 3 Hopes soon. But yeah, there's a lot of Fire Emblem games to play, a lot of 3DS games, a lot of classic games, still engage. So I had to see where the wind blows me next. But yes, this is a sign if you are on the fence about 3 Houses or about Fire Emblem in general, please give it a shot and you might surprise yourself. Like, you know, play a little bit more than just the first couple of missions, get used to it, get accustomed to it, and I guarantee you a lot of you will get locked in. It may not be your thing, maybe, you know, you'll move on, but I do kind of look at Fire Emblem characters being added to Smash Brothers a little differently now, I'll be honest. I just wish, you know, from now on, when they do add characters, they add some uniqueness to them. For instance, like, I am glad that Byleth does have all those different, you know, heroes relics that he uses. I think that's a pretty cool thing with his moveset. And like I said, I was very ignorant with these characters joining the game, and I was just like, why? Like, why another Fire Emblem character? I still think it's ridiculous that we're at the point where more Fire Emblem characters in Zelda, but still, I don't think it's bad if the characters are represented well and have unique movesets. Like, I don't think I'm going to be too upset. Like, for instance, this next game, if the main character does end up in the next Smash Brothers game, I won't find myself too upset anymore. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a sign of maturity and growing up and just being okay with some Smash Bros. Characters being Fire Emblem fighters. But yeah, this was a much needed thing that I definitely needed to have because, you know, so many times of just seeing, oh, Fire Emblem game ending the Direct or Xenoblade game ending the Direct. Maybe I can now start to get kind of excited for them. So we'll see. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to this long rant and this long video. I know you guys really like the Xenoblade one, so we'll see if you guys really like this one. If you're interested in Fire Emblem, you know, coverage of me talking about more games I play in the future, or like I said, I'll probably do a big combination video about Xenoblade and Fire Emblem because I want to kind of talk about them and their significance and impact for me, and, you know, kind of what it means, you know, and what other people can learn from my experience. But I'll probably be posting that video soon, so if you want to turn on post notifications and just look out for that. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you for hanging with me over the last 5-6 years as I've been dodging Xenoblade and Fire Emblem, but I finally did it. So yeah, there's not many other series now that I need to play. I'm trying to think back to them. I've tried Animal Crossing New Horizons. That was my first Animal Crossing game. I tried that back when it came out in 2020. I didn't really... It did, like, there was something very peaceful, and I will always remember playing it back with COVID. But I wasn't a huge fan of it. I don't know. It's just something about taking care of an island and there not being like a story to complete just didn't excite me as much. We'll see at the next Animal Crossing game if it pulls me in, and I'll be sure to make a video about that. But as far as everything else, like, there's not really any other series or franchises that I need to try, I don't think. I take that back. Earthbound. Earthbound would probably be the last one, another JRPG, but that one just, none of the gameplay or the combat or anything looks exciting to me, so I don't know. If you guys recommend it, let me know. But maybe I'll try that one. I believe they're on Switch Online. At least the first two. I know Mother 3 isn't. I don't think it is. I don't know. You guys may need to clarify that with me. I know Mother 3 has a lot of problems and stuff. I'm really hoping they remake one of the Earthbound games. That would be really cool, and that'd be a way for me to get into it. But who knows? Yeah. Also, real quick, before I go, I know this is going to be like a crazy last second thing. The music. The music in this game is so good. Like, the battle theme from the first half of the story is so freaking catchy. And I know a lot of these songs are in Smash Brothers because I remember hearing them thinking, daggone it, this game's got some good music. Like, some of these tracks are banging. So, like, I knew a lot of them was going to be banging, but dope. Like, so many good tracks in this game. Like, I could sit and go through all of them. I'm going to actually go back and listen to the soundtrack again. I've already done it with Xenoblade Chronicles 1 100 times, so I'm definitely going to listen to the soundtrack again because it's actually really good. But, yeah, that's all. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you all have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next one. See you guys.